So I saw Books with Benghis Khan, who did this, Ben, and I'll link his channel. I thought it was a cool idea, and then I also saw T from An Erudite Adventure do this, and I'm like, this looks cool, so let's give it a shot. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing the series that defined my 2023, and this is specifically just looking at what I spent the most time consuming as far as series. So this is going by page. This includes things I did, whether it's physical, ebook, or audio, everything here. And then I went through and I was taking a look at all the series that I did at least 2 books of, and was trying to take a look and see okay, which ones did I spend the most time on going with, and there were definitely some that it was, I didn't realize how much I had done in a series, or that it was interesting to see, so yeah, this was kind of fun to do. So we're going to be doing the top 10 based on page count. I tried to make sure that this was equivalent to whatever version that I own actually read, or if it was ebook, or if it was audio. I went with the base version as well, because some of these I own physically, but also did some audio of as well. And so that's what we're looking at here with it. So the 3 that just missed the cutoff, there were a lot that were pretty close. Just missing the cutoff was Melitu by James Lloyd Doolin. I read the first 2 books in that series. Donovan by Debbie Michael Gear. I read the first 2 books in that series. And Rift War, which of course by Raymond E. Feist, because I read the next 2 books that come after Magician as well. And then we had Beast Hunters was right after that as well. That one was actually 3 books, but they were shorter, so they didn't meet the 2 of these other ones. So those are like the kind of honorable mentions. And then we'll go and we'll talk about the 10 that made it. So coming in at number 10 with a total of 916 pages was the Spokan Clock Tower Mysteries that are by Patricia Meredith. And so these books were something totally different for me. And I read 3, so the 3 that are out, that's why they make it here. And I kind of read them a little bit split apart, but these were something so different for me. And it was one of the things that, although I'm still primarily going to be focusing on fantasy this year and just things that I own, it just shows how really nice it is to split out and try some different genres, because this is not only mystery, which isn't something I read much of, but it's historical mystery. I really enjoyed my time with these. It was something so different. I really enjoyed the characters as we're going and looking at these mysteries, but also the kind of the feel of the historical fiction and finding out. And so it just was something so nice. I really enjoyed these, and I didn't realize it was quite that page count. I did do audio for these, and the audio was also really fantastic. I still need to get physical copies, actually, but had a really great time with these. I definitely recommend checking them out if you're looking for something just totally different. They're really well written, and they're really fun, and I had a great time despite this not at all being a normal genre for me. And then coming in at number 9 is the Willful Child series by Steven Erikson. This is a trilogy. I did all 3 books. I actually ended up doing audio. I started physically reading this, realized that it is actually book 3, and then as I was looking it up, I found the audios that were on script, and these are really ridiculous kind of parody, satire, sci-fi stuff, and the audio is a really great way to consume these. The narrator was fantastic, so I ended up sticking with mostly just doing audio for that, and since I didn't have physical copies of the first 2, just a really fun time with those as well too. That came in, the 3 books, 1,040 pages, and once again, I wouldn't have thought about it, and I did those earlier in the year, but also, these were just a ton of fun. I don't do as much sci-fi, and a lot of the sci-fi that I read in the last year wasn't a huge fan of. So these, though, they were fun, polar opposite from anything else you think of with Erikson, but they were a blast going through these as well. So they came in there at number 9. Now, beating that by a single page was the Protectors of Pami series. I read Becoming a Druid and To Speak with Elders, and then also the book 1.5, which was Sins and Sorrows. And so those, all this year, that came in at 1,041 pages. And this is another series that was one I had a lot of fun with. And don't think about the fact that, I mean, the page count was actually pretty high. And I read these a little bit split out as well, I think. But Just a really, really fun, classic kind of 80s style fantasy is the way this feels written. If you would have told me this was written in the 80s, I would believe you, but in a good way. It doesn't feel dated in any way. It's just that kind of 80s adventure style of fantasy. Of course, big focus on druids, big focus on quests and those types of thing. And it's our main character who's not the most reliable, but as we find out more, and you see too, just the picture here, where we've got this centaur with the double scythe here. You find out more about the world, you get to see more types of creatures, and that seems like that's only going to be continuing. I'm really excited. Desperate Dispatches is going to be out really, really soon, which is the next kind of middle novel that's going to be following some different POVs. So excited to get to that, and then just get to book 3 in general with this, because it's been a series that I've really enjoyed and had a great time with as well. Then up at number 8 is the Ringsor Trilogy by Howard Andrew Jones. Now this one, I actually, after finishing, I sent my physical copies of hardcovers over to Andrew to try and get him to read this, because these were really fun as well. And I did do some hybrid with, I think, audio here as well, too. And so there's a lot of audio on here. For some of the longer things that I was doing, I happen to be doing this. It's interesting that's kind of worked with some of my long series, but it doesn't make a long series able to get through. But this was a one that randomly I had just gotten from the covers on Book Outlet, and then I loved the first book, and I liked the second two as well, and I talked about this trilogy. But it was the first one especially, I loved the tone and the feel, and it was one of those books I read it at the perfect time, and it just really stuck with me, and was really just unique and interesting trilogy as well. And I'm super happy that I ended up reading this when I did, because it ended up being a really good time where the author was coming out with a new series, the Hanover Chronicles, which Lord of the Shattered Land is not on this list because I only read the first book fully in 2023, but one of my top books. I've mentioned it a lot, so it worked out because the author and the publisher of that ended up finding my videos of Ringsor and reaching out to me on this, and so I was able to not only read this, suggest some other people for them to reach out to as well. And so yeah, I was really, really happy that worked out. But Ringsor was a fun time. From there, so that came in at 1136. And then from here, we jump up in a big way with page count as well. And some of these, once again, I didn't realize how much we had here, so it's interesting. But that's there at number 7. So number 6, I did include, I know it's not a series, I think both other people who I took this from too, the Secret Projects. There were 4 of them. 3 of them were Cosmere, but in general, it was you were getting one once a quarter and reading them. I actually read, I think I did all of them on ebook, because I read them pretty shortly after they came out for the most part. So I haven't actually read the physical copies. Besides, I did a little bit for Yumi, because Yumi was the one that, when that was coming out, I had not had a chance to get to it yet, and so I actually did read some of that physically, which was really nice to actually read one of these. But those came in at 1,803 pages at number 6 here, so a pretty big jump, and then we're going to jump big from there as well. Those I've talked about, I had a fun time with them. I know not everybody was a huge fan. Like, Tress was okay for me. I liked Frugal Wizard. I'm one of those. Yumi was really solid, felt kind of old school, and then the Sunlit Man, which was the more relevant kind of Cosmere thing, also just was good, albeit it felt a little bit rushed at times, but I had a good time with these. It was nice just having these coming out and having new books that I was excited about and getting to them. So they were a fun time coming in there at that spot. Now number 5, which I knew I read a lot of these, but I guess in a lot of ways I didn't realize how many I did, but is the Jernai series, which I did finish in 2023. I had read several of the books before with it, but with all of the ones, it came in at 2,707 pages. Now these I did do all audio that I did in 2023 because I had been splitting between the mass market paperbacks that I have and this, but I don't actually own a good chunk of the later ones at this point, because I really want to get better versions. It's kind of hard to find at that series. So that was when I did audio, but Jernai is definitely, it was a blast. Definitely going to be up in that conversation for whenever I do another update of my top 10 series. I didn't do one this year, but I'll almost certainly do one next year, because between stuff that I've read in 2023 and all kinds of stuff I've planned for 2024, I feel like there'll be enough changes potentially to make it worthwhile to do. But yeah, it's one of those series I just loved. It's heroic fantasy. I just recently did a video talking about it, and I knew reliably whenever I was going to start one of these, I knew I was going to enjoy it. I was going to have a great time. There were not any of these that I didn't like. None that really went below a 4-star. Some I obviously liked better than others, but had a great time with all of them. And so the crazy thing is once again, most of them aren't particularly long, and I didn't read the whole. It's 11 books, I think, in July. I didn't read all of them, but I read more than half of them in 2023. But then we have coming in at number 4, the Lords Saga, which is at 27-26. So actually not much more. This is also, I read all but the first book. I think all but the first was in 2023. And just was a seriously like so it's 7 books. Yeah, 7 books. And some of them are longer, but this was one that I was mostly buddy reading with T from An Erudite Adventure, and then Liam's Lyceum was involved a little bit as well, but he kind of got behind. But I did split here. A lot of this I did audio because he's my favorite narrator, and they were all included on Audible as well. See, I told you there was a lot of audio on here with it. And it was just a really fun series. I've done several videos about Rune Lords and talking about it as well. And I know some people don't like the back half as much as the front half, but there was a lot of really great stuff here. And I feel like the back half does make a lot of sense if you think about what was set up in the first half. So another series I had a really, really great time with. And I ended up actually tracking down all of my physical copies after finishing them for the most part, because I still didn't have quite all of them. But a series that I knew this was going to be on here, and I wasn't sure where it was going to be. And so the fact that I read 7 books in this series, and it's only number 4, is what was interesting as well. Although the top 3 I feel like makes sense when thinking about the amount of them that I consumed this year, most certainly. So yeah, Rune Lord's another one that I had a really great time with. That was doing one a month of those, reading with T, I had a great time with, and it was a lot of fun. And then we have at number 3, which I'd almost forgotten about this because I was finishing my reread of The Wheel of Time. And so the last 4 books in Wheel of Time were in 2023 for the first 4 months of the year. And I actually think I ended up doing them just in a row for some of them. So getting them the last couple at least. So I was just really excited to finish up. And so those were audio. I did the whole reread audio just because that was a way for me to do a Wheel of Time reread. I'd never done the audio before. It was my first time doing it. I'd always read physically the dozen times I've read the whole series. And so that came in, though, if you look at page count, at 3,339 for number 3. And yeah, that's only number 3. And that's only with me reading the last 4 books in this series, so it's funny that it got up that high, but granted those are like the longest books total. I love Wheel of Time. You guys have all heard me talk about Wheel of Time. It is something that was a favorite series of mine, my number 1 favorite series for so many years. It's always going to be just a huge series and a huge part of why I love fantasy so much. And yeah, you've all heard me talk about it, but I'd almost forgotten that I did actually finish that this year. So it felt like it was so long ago. And then number 2, which actually barely edges out Wheel of Time, but number 2 at 3,396 pages, although I've never actually read a physical page of this series, is Dungeon Crawler Carl. Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I ended up re-listening to all of the audiobooks prior to the last book coming out. It's one of those series that, I'm sure you could read it physically and it would still be really good, but the audio is such a fantastic part about why just consuming it that way is so much fun with the narration, and so I had a really fantastic time doing audio with those. But yeah, that was with redoing the whole series. They get longer as you go along, and I hadn't realized quite how long some of them were. So yeah, that came in at number 2. And there's another one where I don't think I'll listen to all of them again before the next book comes out by any means. But I just had such a great time with them, and I really enjoyed just binging them again and going through all of them. It was a blast. It was definitely worth it, and it's a series that I'm sure I'll do that again with over time because I just had a fantastic time with it. I'm really excited. I am going to be getting the first one from the Kickstarter, because I could not pass up a special edition of it. I don't know if we'll end up getting physical copies otherwise, though. I'll have to see. There was a copy of book 5 that was at my half-price books, and I wanted to get it, but I'm just like, I feel like they deserve a spot on the shelves, but at the same time, I'm very unlikely to ever physically read them because the audio is something I love so much. So we'll see. And the funny thing is, we had all of that time with audio, and then the last one on here, the number one, not much of a surprise, I know, is it was all physical. So I feel like it shows you why I spent a lot of time on this series, and so audio is something I got through a lot of with. But at 4,496 pages total, over 1,000 pages above the series before it, is, no surprise, the Wars of Light and Shadow. Now this includes, this doesn't include the first two, which I read before, so starting at Fugitive Prince, which is book 3 or 4, it's 3 in the hardcovers. The rest of the series, plus the novella and then the short stories, all of which I read in 2023, and that was, I literally took several months off, mostly, with doing that, where the only other stuff I was doing was audio, which, once again, why I ended up having a lot in there, but this series is just amazing, and once again, you've all already talked about it. I love it so much, but looking at that, that amount, 4,496 pages, that's a huge chunk of what I read for the year, and I'm absolutely super happy about it. And now I just realized I actually forgot. I was gonna say, so total, these top 10 is 22,600 pages is what we have total here. But I pulled up from my Goodreads, which says I've read 132 books and a total of 53,459 pages read, and so once again, that's including all formats. So when you look at it, my top 10 here was almost half of that, so just I spent half of that time on those 10. And then Wars of Light and Shadow, though, is not that far off from 10% of my total page count for the year, too, so that, I mean, that shows a lot, too, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that, and I'm happy that I spent so much time on it, of course, because it's my new favorite series. It doesn't officially get to count on the top 10 until I finish the last book, but I've just been calling it a little bit early, but it hasn't been in the official video yet, but yeah, fantastic time. So those, though, are the top 10 series that I spent the most time on in 2023. I will be really, really interested to see what this is going to be in 2024 already, just because I'm really planning on focusing and reading a lot of books and a lot of series stuff that I own as well, including Crown of Stars reread, which that'll be doing my audio reread. I think that might be something I start doing with some big series that I want to reread instead of reading them physically again. Ones that I haven't done audio when possible. I feel like it's a good way to justify rereading, because it's not taking up my time. So it's worked pretty well for me to do it that way. But yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to be coming up next. But that was it for 2023. So thanks again for Ben for giving me this idea, and then T for when I saw your video too. I'm like, I'm going to definitely do this. So I'll have both their videos linked for you to check out. But yeah, let me know some of the stuff that you spent the most time with in 2023. I think this is interesting to see. That's it for this one, though. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether any of these books, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And, of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.